Assalamualaikum. My name is Megan Tahir Ahmed. My roll number is BP1650124 and I am from group number 17. The topic of my presentation is disseminated intravascular coagulation. Now, what is disseminated intravascular coagulation? Disseminated intravascular coagulation is characterized by systemic activation of blood coagulation, which results in generation and deposition of fibrin, leading to microvascular thrombi in various organs and contributing to multiple organ dysfunction syndrome. The definition of DIC is it is an acquired syndrome characterized by the intravascular activation of coagulation with loss of localization arising from different causes. It can originate from and cause damage to the microvasculature, which, if sufficiently severe, can produce organ dysfunction. There are several underlying causes of DIC, such as infection, inflammation, cancer, and any other disease. The pathophysiology of DIC. The hematologic derangement seen in DIC result from the following four simultaneously occurring mechanisms. Number one, tissue factor mediated thrombin generation. Number two, dysfunctional physiologic anticoagulant mechanisms, example depression of antithrombin in protein C system, which cannot adequately balance this thrombin generation. Number three, impaired fibrin removal due to depression of the fibrinolytic system. This is mainly caused by high circulating levels of plasminogen activator inhibitor type 1. However, in exceptional forms of DIC, fibrinolytic activity may be increased and contribute to bleeding. And fourth is inflammatory activation. Now, what happens in DIC is that the DIC starts from the cascade of coagulation. There is excessive and systemic coagulation throughout the body, which leads to increased PT and APTT and several other factors. However, sometimes there is also a complication that DIC, which starts from the cascade of clotting or coagulation, can lead to bleeding, excessive bleeding, which can cause several hemorrhages inside the body. Classification of DIC. The DIC, based on its sign, mechanism, laboratory findings, and therapeutic guidelines, is divided into four categories: non symptomatic type DIC, bleeding type DIC, massive bleeding type DIC, and organ failure type DIC. The risk factors that are included in causing DIC are blood transfusion reaction, cancer, especially certain types of leukemias, inflammation of the pancreas, infection in the blood, especially by bacteria or fungus, liver diseases, pregnancy complications such as placenta that is left behind after delivery, recent surgery or anesthesia, severe tissue injury as in burns and head injury, and large hemangioma, a blood vessel that is not formed properly. The diagnosis and treatment. Diagnosis of DIC. Disseminated intravascular coagulation is suspected in patients with unexplained bleeding or venous thromboembolism, especially if a predisposing condition exists. If DIC is suspected, platelet count, prothrombin time, PTT, plasma fibrinogen level, and plasma D-dimer levels are increased. Treatment of DIC is carried out in following manners. First of all, as we know that DIC is due to some underlying cause, first of all we treat that underlying cause. Then we carry out possible replacement therapies, for example replacing the platelets, cryoprecipitate, fresh frozen plasma, and sometimes we use heparin when there is excessive coagulation. Now the case study that is included that my topic has is WK, a 63-year-old woman, was admitted to the intensive care unit with respiratory failure secondary to acute PE. She required ventilatory support until 48 hours ago when she was extubated. At that time, aspiration was suspected, but no antibiotic coverage was prescribed. Within the last 24 hours, WK developed tachycardia, heart rate 120 beats per minute, tachypnea, respiration rate 30 beats per minute, and a fever to 39 degrees centigrade. Sepsis was suspected, broad spectrum antibiotic coverage was started, and WK was reintubated. Because of the sudden appearance of bright red blood per rectum and through a nasogastric tube, a coagulation screen was ordered. Until this time, all coagulation parameters had been within normal limits. Now, the results show platelets 43,000 millimeter cube, The normal range is 150,000 to 350,000. Prothrombin time 24 seconds, whereas the normal is 12 seconds. Then activated partial thromboplastin APTT 76 seconds, where the mean normal is 34, and thrombin time 48 seconds. Fibrinogen 60 mg per deciliter, normal range is 150 to 400, and fibrin degradation products 580 nanogram per ml, where the normal range is less than 250. The diagnosis of disseminated intravascular coagulation is made. How does the pathophysiology of DIC explain this hematologic abnormality? Now we'll start with our soap notes. First of all, subjective. The chief complaint that the woman was admitted with was respiratory failure and acute pulmonary embolism. History of CC, age 63-year-old, gender woman, and medical history on ventilatory support until 48 hours ago. Current medication, broad spectrum antibiotic coverage is being given to the patient. Additional symptoms is a suspected sepsis and bleeding from rectum and through nasogastric tube. Now, objective vital signs observations of the patient are as such: heart rate 120 beats per minute, which shows that they are high. Respiratory rate is 30 beats per minute, which is again high, and temperature is also elevated, that is 39 degrees centigrade. Lab test results show platelet counts at 43,000 millimeter cube, which are very low than the normal range. PT is 24 seconds, which is again high. APTT is 76 seconds, which is also high. And thrombin time is 48 seconds, which again is normal, higher than the normal range. Fibrinogen 60 milligram per decimiliter are very low than the normal range, and fibrin degradation products 580 nanogram per milliliter are very high. Assessments uh, by looking at the subjective and objective, we assessed the following things. Suspected sepsis is the major underlying cause for DIC in patient. Bleeding from the nasogastric tube also confirms the suspicion of DIC. Finally, laboratory findings show increased PT, APTT, and thrombin time, and along with this, diminished platelet count, decreased fibrinogen, and elevated levels of fibrinogen degradation products confirm that the patient is suffering from DIC. The lab results play a key role in diagnosing the DIC because only through these uh, lab results can we identify that a patient is suffering from DIC. Now, the plan and the medications that uh, we provide is antibiotic therapy is started immediately to control the infection so that sepsis could be treated. Since the underlying cause of the DIC is sepsis, so the first and foremost plan would be to start treating the sepsis so that the DIC could be controlled. For that, we start with the antibiotic therapy. Then, since there is bleeding from nasogastric and nasogastric tube and rectum, we will start with fresh frozen plasma. Fresh frozen plasma contains pro-coagulant and antifibrinolytic factors, which helps in stopping bleeding. After that, the patient has elevated heartbeat. So to normalize the heartbeat, we'll use acebutolol or any other beta block to help patient in breathing and lower the respiratory rate. Adequate oxygenation is provided to the patient so that the patient can breathe normally. And since the patient is suffering from thrombocytopenia and the level of platelet is decreased very much, we'll also carry out transfusion of platelets to overcome that problem. Now, this is the plan that we will provide and the treatment that we will give to the patient. Thank you.